Gracie Jiu Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 69 of the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Okay, today Ryron Gracie is back, and he's here to recap the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit. So, no quote today, we're just going to dive right into it. Ryron will be talking about the summit, and we're also going to be including some clips from a handful of people that were there for the summit and hear what it was like for them as participants. We'll also be doing the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment differently. So instead of me sharing some thoughts for you to consider, as I usually do, we'll finish off with a couple of additional stories, one from Don Cook and the other from Victoria Gracie. And I feel like these will be a great way to sum it all up in a nice and insightful way. So it is a long episode, and I wish I could have included everyone that attended, but of course because of time constraints that wasn't possible. But I hope the ones that are sharing on this episode will give those who weren't at the event a glimpse into what it was like. So we'll start off with Ty Gay and Jennifer Gray sharing their thoughts, then Kris Bailey sharing his perspective, and then we'll start the interview with Ryron. During the interview, we'll pause a couple of times to hear from some others about their experiences. And then, as I mentioned, we'll finish with the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment with Victoria, bringing it to a close. Okay, let's hear about the summit.
Hey there, it's Ty and Jen.
Hello.
We're from Redline Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and we just wanted to kind of share our experience that we had at the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit. It was truly an amazing experience. Jennifer, do you want to go first?
Sure. I got a lot from the camp. I feel the information that was given at the summit was very valuable for our culture in this day and age, on and off the mat. I love that they incorporated jiu-jitsu with conversations about mental health, food and drug addiction, business and relationships, not just relationships with our companions and boyfriends, girlfriends, but relationships with everyone. Our family, our friends, our coworkers, and most importantly, the relationships that we have with ourselves. And I feel very privileged to have had this opportunity to share what I've learned with others, because this is how we start to change our culture.
True that. Yeah, they had speakers from everything from like health, gut health, business, mental health, spine care, investment, self-worth, relationships, finances. It was truly just mind-boggling how awesome it was. Started the morning off with yoga. We did training. We had speakers. We had more training. We had lunch. We had dinners. And then connecting with others and ourselves, allowing us to really see the big picture, I believe, of jiu-jitsu, allowing us to stay in the art forever. If you've ever wondered if there was something more than just chokes and arm locks to our beautiful art, I suggest looking further into this awesome movement. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we'll see you guys in the mat soon.
Peace out.
Peace.
So people are wondering what the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit is all about. And here's a little example. So imagine your 10 best friends. They're all super cool. They're down to earth. You're all on the same wavelength. There's no egos. There's no attitudes. Everyone's very nice, unassuming, friendly, caring, considerate, right? You're all super fun to hang out with. Now imagine that each one of these friends has 5 best friends of their own, all similar character traits. So you're all hanging out together, 50 of like just the coolest people. Now imagine all of these 50 people have the same passion for jiu-jitsu that you have, maybe even more. And you decide to go on vacation together, all 50 of you, and you decide to make it a 100% jiu-jitsu vacation. So you go all out. Lots of training, guest speakers, talks, group discussions, amazing catered food, amazing camaraderie, laundry service. They wash the gis, everything on site, so you don't have to go anywhere or worry about anything. You just do jiu-jitsu. And the whole focus of all of this is on how all of you can stay on the mat and be training for the rest of your lives. That's what the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit is.
Okay, I'm speaking with Ryron Gracie, who's back to talk with us and recap the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit. So welcome back, Ryron.
Thank you, Marty.
Well, it sounds like it was just an amazing event, and I know a lot of us are dying to hear what it was like. So if you would, just take it away and fill us in.
For sure, yeah. I'll just kind of run you through a day of activities. So the event, it started every morning with yoga. And I specifically got, 3 different yoga instructors because, it's 3 different styles and just 3 different personalities. And I received really good feedback from, people saying that Henner was actually one. Henner said, wow, having different yoga instructors was a very good idea. And I'm surprised that Henner, liked that. My first thought was to do one instructor that I really liked, but I'm glad it worked out for him and a few others really liked that. So yoga in the morning, and I'm a very big, I like yoga right now, and I feel like I like yoga a lot because I like the stillness of it. I like the control. I like how quiet it is. I like it's very challenging, but there's very little movement to some degree. Obviously, sometimes you move a lot, so I'm very big on yoga. And I'm not competitive with my yoga. I don't want to do a handstand any sooner or anything crazy, so therefore it feels very safe to me. I know that yoga, like jiu-jitsu, like many things, if you get too competitive, you can hurt yourself. So, but a light yoga understanding, I think, is very good for our health and just our longevity. So it was great yoga in the morning, and immediately after yoga, we went straight into no-gi rolling. And this was perfect. Everybody's already dressed in the no-gi attire. The yoga wasn't so hard that we were dripping sweat. And we were warmed up, and we did a roll for about 45, 50 minutes. And it was a very light roll, naturally, because you're so stretched out. They didn't roll crazy. Everybody just kind of connected and flowed very well. So lots of no-gi rolling. And then after the rolling finished, we had a break for, 20 or 30 minutes to go back to the hotel rooms, get ready, and come back down for breakfast. We had a huge brunch every morning for the group, and some people were like, wow, this brunch is, almost too good. It's spoiling us because we had smoked salmon. I'm a big smoked salmon fan myself. That's why it's there. And every morning to have smoked salmon available, is a very serious treat.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
I love it. And my daughter eats smoked salmon like it's nothing. I have to stop her.
Nice.
So there it is. So smoked salmon and all kinds of other great things for breakfast, our brunch that we had. And then after the brunch finished, everybody walked back over to the mat area, the meeting area. So there's a breakfast area, an eating area, and a meeting area. And we had a few different speakers. My wife, Victoria, spoke on relationships, for example. And I really tried to keep speakers that would focus on these main topics of relationships, happiness, business, health, and those are the 4 that we kind of worked around. So Victoria, she has her business. It's called My Kind of Mama, where she works as like a mother mentor.
Right.
And just tries to really help families, better communicate and, do whatever it is that they need to do, which is live together and have a very, harmonious household, she calls it. So Victoria spoke on that, and it was great seeing, like, a group of 55 people. Everybody, of course, is open to listen to everybody, but it's nice how the 55 people, maybe 14 or 12 people, like, really needed to hear what Victoria had to say on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe they were in new relationships, or they have a newborn, or something's happening to where, what Victoria said very much landed for them. And then a friend of mine, Sam, spoke on happiness and the ego and, living in the moment. And these are things that, we could always discuss more and understand more, because it's so important, right? How we look at things and how we don't live in the past, and we don't, worry about the future and so on. So just being here right now and enjoying this. So Sam spoke, and same thing. Some people needed to hear that. Some people are very stressed out, and they're always, living in the past and so on. And then Kalani is a friend of mine who I met just very recently. The rest I've known for years, but Kalani I met 8 months ago, and he spoke at an event. I listened to him speak, and he really touched me in the sense that he spoke on wealth and, our business and going after our goals, but not losing our family on the way. And that had happened to him. So whenever you talk about, being successful, but not losing your family along the way, it automatically draws my attention. I have 2 daughters. I have 2 kids and my wife. So I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is a great point. And I come from divorced parents also. So, be successful, but don't make all this money and then get divorced, lose your kids, have your kids not want to be around you, and so on. So fortunately for him, he got divorced, but him and his kids have a great relationship now, and he discusses how he fixed that and what he realized.
Wow, powerful.
Same thing, after the talk, they swarmed Kalani, especially the people who, were in that position and who were near that or who feared that, who experienced that. Those that can relate to him went over to him. And then David spoke on food addiction, and not food addiction like, I guess like one might think, but just speaking about how the things that we eat, the bacteria in our stomach, like in our gut, I guess when the food goes into your body, in your stomach, the bacteria or the whatever it is, it releases these chemicals, these signals back to the brain, telling the brain how much it wants that food. So sometimes people are addicted beyond being able to just hear you say, hey, you know what? Don't eat that anymore and go work out. That'll solve your problem. It's much deeper than that for them. And this can start as early as, childbirth, and from when the mother is pregnant, and then birth, and as a young child, and how important it is to be aware of what the food industry is doing in terms of how the food industry, mixes the perfect amounts of this and that and this, and fats and sugars to make us come back for more and more and more. And, how food that is from nature is processed, and then that's what we're getting in all of our different meals, which is why it's so addicting and it's so dangerous. And just awareness of that, and how the food industry is obviously in this for money. So David came with a good angle and lots of information, but same thing, wow, food addiction. And now when you look at somebody who's very overweight or has a food problem, we don't just, especially if you really care about that person, this could be someone that's one of your loved ones, you don't just say, hey, what's wrong with you? And stop eating this and lose weight and go to the gym already. You can understand that it's deeper than that, which therefore allows you to come at them with a different angle and hopefully, really help them get over this serious addiction.
Right. Without being judgmental.
Correct. It's what they're going through. Everybody has their battle,
Right. Absolutely.
And our friend Easy, this guy saved my life in terms of my neck, my spine. I had pain down my arm, and he gave me some amazing exercises to save myself, my neck. Maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and ever since, these exercises have, I've taken them everywhere. When I travel, no matter where I am, after a long drive, And if I ever feel anything with my neck or my arm, I do his exercises and I'm better. So this was so good that he showed some exercises on the spot to the group, and people were telling me 10 minutes later, 2 hours later, how their back is feeling better than it has over the last year.
Nice.
And some guys flew from England. People flew from all around the world and the country to come here. So to get back on your flight and be able to have these exercises before you fly and after you land and during your flight was very valuable. If they just went home feeling better, meaning that less painful in their seat, it was 100% worth it. So Ezekiel he finished it off, and he very much saved my life. So I'm sure now he can help a few others. And, because back problems is the number one disability probably in the world.
I agree.
It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to have some kind of back problem sometime in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is to, get it under control and understand your body to where, you don't have to suffer that much for that long, that early, and so on. And Ezekiel, I actually referred him to Hickson a couple of years ago, and maybe a year and a half ago, and he helped Hickson tremendously. And it was great to see just how much, Hickson accepted and is now using the movements and the exercises that Ezekiel taught him.
Wow.
So it's
awesome.
a great thing to see. So those are the speakers that spoke before lunch.
Wow. So let's take a quick pause to hear from a few of the other participants, and we'll move on, please.
Perfect.
My name is Marco Moreno, and I'm going to talk about my experience at the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit, March 2017. Ryron Gracie put a lot of work to organize this amazing event. It was in a hotel. We did yoga in the morning. There was more people, 50, 60 people from all over the world, England, Canada, Korea. And yoga in the morning, breakfast, everything at the hotel, jiu-jitsu. And the best thing for me was the speakers, because it wasn't only about jiu-jitsu. The speakers talk about also other things like relationships, how to better communicate with others, so important. Mindset, finding a balance between family and business, diet. The spine doctor gave us good tips to take care of our backs, our bodies. So for me, that was the best part. But also, of course, for example, the class with Grandmaster Ryron Gracie, the testimony of Mike Swain training jiu-jitsu till like later in your life. Lyoto Machida was there sparring with us, Henner Gracie, Evandro Nunes. Having this opportunity to roll with these guys was just unbelievable for me. We did a trip to the beach. We had a lot of fun. Here in Virginia, it was snowing. In LA, we went to the beach. It was just incredible. But also the connection. I met my friends from last year, and this year I met new friends, and the vibe, the positive energy in the room, in the talks. Everybody is there trying to help each other. Different, I think, from other jiu-jitsu events where people get together and just train. And this is all about improving life as a whole. I was with my girlfriend Susie. We had a great time. And the best thing, Mafia. Victoria Gracie has this game that everybody got kind of like addicted, playing until like 1, 2 in the morning. It was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle 3, but also maybe in the future, Mafia Lifestyle Summit 1. It was just great. Thank you, Ryron Gracie. He's trying to improve our lives, trying to work so we enjoy jiu-jitsu forever, but also to improve all areas of our lives. So, Ryron Gracie, thank you. We can't thank you enough. Susie, my girlfriend, is here. She also wants to say some words.
Hi, you guys. I think I won't forget the connection between all of us. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ryron, for these amazing memories. Thank you.
Thank you, Mari Josie, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks. Looking forward to the next event. I appreciate you guys.
Hi, my name's Ron Wilder. I'm the owner and chief instructor of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Cary. We are a certified training center in Cary, North Carolina. And I had the honor and privilege of attending the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit last week. I want to thank Ryron for creating the idea and putting it together. It was fantastic. The real focus was how do you train in a way that allows you to practice jiu-jitsu for the rest of your life, and how do you integrate it into your total life in relationships and finances and health, and really to make it a lifestyle, not just something that you do on the mat, during the week. And it was a terrific experience. Got to meet a lot of great people, and the real focus was on, I think for me, was learning how to be a highly adaptive, training partner, where you're really tuned into where your partner is in terms of skill level and intensity, and matching that in a way that's challenging and fun, but also pleasant and safe. Because what becomes really frustrating is training with someone who is overly aggressive or presents the risk of injury, and that's the cause of frustration or injury, which is what kind of causes people to stop training. So I found it was great to meet a lot of people, have great conversations on and off the mat, and everybody I met was really focused on training in a very positive way. It was a fantastic experience, and as a CTC owner, I took a lot of lessons away from that to bring home and to make our CTC even better. I really have been looking at how I teach and how we bring students on the mat and make sure that they are learning from day one how to be a great training partner, how to take care of themselves and their partners, how to train safely. That way we can really kind of preserve the legacy of Grandmaster Evandro Gracie and the survival mindset that he focused on, and really teach jiu-jitsu in a way that can impact a lot of people. So it was a great experience. Again, thanks to Ryron for presenting it, and thanks Marty to you for helping spread the word about it. Appreciate all you do, and look forward to seeing you guys on the mat next time.
All right, we're back. I just wanted to comment for a moment on what you've shared so far. I mean, those sound like amazing topics, amazing speakers, and much needed. I mean, communication is probably the most common thing that we all across the board can improve, and especially active listening, really being there and attentive to the person we're with. And that translates, personal, business, all kinds of different relationships. And then you spoke of being in the moment, not living in the future or the past. So many of us waste so much of our lives thinking about what's going to happen or what might happen, or the past and living in the past. So being reminded to be present today is huge. And all the other ones you mentioned, that just sounds like some fabulous subjects and speakers. So please continue.
Yes. And about those speakers that spoke, all of them I've known for, a long time. Kalani I just met recently, but every single one of them came and spoke for free. So that was the even better part. That I'm forever grateful for them for, this was the first big event at a hotel like this, and they shared their time. Now they're all jiu-jitsu people, my wife, and most of them, they're all my students, which is part of the reason why they came for free, because they're so grateful for what jiu-jitsu had done for them. And, it's like me, I would go anywhere and speak for an hour on the importance of jiu-jitsu to somebody that I know, because, we want to help people and we want to, make the world a better place. So thank you to them for doing that. Now, after we had these discussions, these speakers, I thought it would be a great idea to have small group talks. So there's 55, 57 people. We broke off into groups of 7, 8, 9, 10. And then for the first day, we discussed relationships. So for 1 hour or like 45 minutes after the speakers left, we had our small group talks for 25 minutes, 20 minutes. And then every group was speaking. And then one or two people from each group, or one person from the group, would stand up and say to the rest of the people that were there, they would say what kind of things their group discussed, and what direction they took the discussion of relationships, for example. It could be in a personal relationship. It could be with, mother and father-in-laws. It could be with your child, with your best friend, with your business, and just what kind of things they discuss. So it was very cool to hear, like, that group in the corner over there, they took the discussion of relationships in this direction, and I never even thought of that. Like, wow, that's so interesting. And now that just puts a little reminder in my mind to open a discussion in that direction with my friends at lunchtime or with whoever I'm sitting with, if I choose to, if I want to. So that was great, and everybody shared those. And then we had our lunch break immediately after all the group discussions, and they ate lunch on their own. So they would go across the street. There is a huge Del Amo Mall, and then maybe, 8, 10, 15 restaurants to choose from within walking distance. So small groups of people who had never been met before, people from all around would kind of go out, 8 people that way, 5 that way, which was very cool to see. And you could also stay in the hotel and eat in the hotel. And then everybody came back around 4 p.m. So probably a 3-hour break, maybe 3.5 hours. And then around 4 p.m., we started doing jiu-jitsu techniques. So everybody wore gis, and we did techniques. Now, the first day, my father came and taught some standing self-defense techniques and really went over the importance of, knowing how to fall, how to be thrown, how to be a good bad guy when practicing these techniques, because, if you know how to fall gracefully and safely and carefully, you will practice these moves longer and longer. If falling is uncomfortable and it's dangerous, then you're not going to do these things forever. And him, having taken, thousands and thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of falls his whole life, he has really mastered he can fall another 100,000 times.
Wow.
No problem, because he understands how to do it so safely. So that was great. I could really see the people that were instructors or that really wanted to be instructors in the room, like, wow, I want to fall like that, and throw me. He don't throw me again. Throw me again. Now your dad is still falling lighter than I am. And I'm like, you guys, he's had, 50 years of practice. But so just learning how to fall is a beautiful thing, and along with some other important, self-defense techniques. And around those times, at that 4 o'clock time where we would do technique, we had Mike Swain come in. Mike Swain helped us with Dolomar mats. They sponsored the event. So Mike Swain was in the area. I said, Mike Swain, could you come speak to us about just judo and how your judo practice is and what you've been doing? And more importantly, is like, how is your relationship with judo right now? What are you doing with judo? And he said, you know what? I actually teach judo. I teach judo at a college in San Jose, which I loved hearing that he's still involved with judo, because, it's very easy for someone to do something so much and then lose touch with it. And Mike Swain did not lose touch with it. He's still doing it, and that's just, it's so great. So he even said, those guys that practice with me around my same age, that are done, broken, given up, and then there are guys that are older than me that are still around it, which is great to see, and how people that are younger make a point to be protective of them and really help the really old ones continue to enjoy judo. And then finally, Machida came in, Ryoro Machida, and he spoke a little bit on his mindset, how it has shifted, and how he's very much more than ever appreciating and understanding the importance of being able to survive and defend yourself before doing anything else. Right? And it's so common that when you're an athlete or you're a professional fighter, you want to go forward and win. And there's a time for that. But, Evandro Gracie always said it. If you can't, whoever doesn't lose can only win. So therefore, put not losing before everything. Mm-hmm. So those 3 guys gave us the time in that afternoon period where we were, sharing techniques and sharing discussions. And everybody, of course, loved meeting and speaking to them and connecting with them.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. What a fabulous lineup as far as martial arts masters That's awesome. Let's go back for a moment. You mentioned the small groups. I want to talk a little bit more about that. You and I discussed it a little more before this conversation, but as great as it is having someone that's really knowledgeable speaking to the whole group, I love the idea of breaking up into these smaller groups because, as you and I were talking about, some people are a little more introverted and may feel a lot more comfortable in sharing, in a small group, and then some are more extroverted. So you really get an opportunity, no matter what your personality is, to contribute. Speak a little more about what that was like, if you would.
Yes, the speaking in small groups, it was actually, when I asked for feedback, I would say that, most people, what they appreciated more than anything was those small group talks. And, you always, like you said, introverted, extroverted people. And also it's, difficult to hear sometimes. You're in a big, almost 4,000 square foot mat space and everybody's sitting in a circle. It's tough to hear that person. So they very much enjoyed the small group talks. I felt like I loved everyone also. And there was one in particular that we had a small group talk where it was so much back and forth and it was so much sharing from all 9 people that I kind of stopped in the middle of the talk, and I was just like, wow, I want to do this once a week with 9 random people, random but still people that, are into jiu-jitsu and into the same things. And we could do it over, Skype or Google Face Chat or whatever you call it, or Zoom. And because it's just it really gets you thinking, and it really helps you open your mind. And sometimes you need your thoughts to be challenged so that you can really understand your thoughts and your ideas. Mm-hmm. Right? When people kind of ask you questions and they throw something back at what you just said, it makes you think to yourself, and you kind of say, you know what, you're right, I never thought about that. And you come back and you share some more and you grow with that back and forth. Right. And I encouraged on the first day, I said, you guys, you should challenge each other. You should question each other. It's no problem. We're all here in the end for the same reason. We want 2 things. We want to practice jiu-jitsu for the rest of our lives. We want to be on the mat and be around jiu-jitsu forever because we know how good it is. And we also want to live more efficiently. And we want to, in many ways, we want to live jiu-jitsu in the other areas of our lives. And to do that, it's going to require, practice and time and discussion. So these small groups, there was good back and forth because people knew that was the final goal in the end, and we're all here for each other. So it was a great time. Yeah.
And you also mentioned that people were open to being a bit vulnerable within this, and that's what really contributed to the bond and the overall closeness that was experienced.
Yes, and the vulnerability, it was a very important thing, and even for me, whether it be during a meal or during these small talks or just throughout the week, just sharing things that, very much trusting the people that are there with things that I've experienced and that I've felt and so on. And I think that a lot of times, people in this jiu-jitsu journey, they have moments that are very frustrating and they feel discouraged at times and angry and sad and disappointed in themselves or their training partners or, anybody around them in their journey. And it's important that you know how to communicate what's going on in your world to somebody, because somebody has to help you get through this hard time. And that could be, you could help yourself. You can communicate it to yourself. That's important. Or communicate it to your training partners or some friends. There's just, when life is difficult, whether it's on the mat or off the mat, it's usually all connected. Your ability to kind of articulate what's happening and express your feelings and have someone there for you to share this with, and someone who can hear what it is that you're going through and feel you, and then come back with you very strategically, not, adding any kind of fuel to the fire, not pushing you to decide in any direction, but just supporting you and helping you really see what your options are and helping you move past this hard time is very important. And it can be the difference between you staying on the mat or you stepping off the mat, or you staying in your healthy, way of life, or whatever you're eating and drinking and thinking, and your nutrition, or you going unhealthy. It can help you stay disciplined in your workforce and, really keep your job and do the best in your job, or quit your job and end up, having financial difficulties. So, the fact that people built friendships, right, and they built relationships with all the rolling, the yoga, the meals, the free time, the discussions, I feel like there are some people in this group of 55 people that are already communicating amongst themselves more than I had communicated with them over the last year. So many of the people who were there I invited because I knew that they were just people that were just pleasant people and amazing training partners. But I only speak to them once, 2, 3 times a year. They're all around the world, and I have lots of people in my life. I teach all day, and, I invited 45 people. But they didn't even know each other, but now they're on Facebook talking every other day, or who knows, through phone calls across the country or across the world. So I'm very happy to be the person that pretty much is the connector of these type of people in jiu-jitsu or in the world. So I look forward to the next time where I can have a 110-person event, and who knows what relationships and what connections will come of this next meeting.
Yes.
And then hopefully it's the relationships and connections that somebody needs. That's all that matters.
Yes.
Is that when life gets crazy, do you have what it takes? Do you have what it takes within yourself? And do you have the people around you that you need in that moment? And I'm very blessed to have the people around me that I need. And fortunately, jiu-jitsu, and because jiu-jitsu is a huge help in that, right?
Right.
I have family and I have friends, and I have more friends and more students that I've known for years and that I trust tremendously. So I have people there for me, but some people don't. They don't have the same. So if we can create that, that's just one more benefit of this summit.
That's beautiful. Let's take another quick pause and hear from a few others that were there for the experience.
Hey everyone out there listening to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. This is Marc Marins. I'm just back from the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit 2017 that was in California, and I'm still vibrating and loving all the lessons and experiences that we had. Full of gratitude for all the speakers and all of the great people that came out to share their journey and to participate in this great event. To my knowledge, it's the first time anything like this has been done, is to, put a finger on what really is the jiu-jitsu lifestyle. A lot of people talk about the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, but I think people from the outside who are starting to get interested in jiu-jitsu or maybe starting their journey are interested in what it is, because they're loving learning the techniques and the moves, and they love coming to train. But they also, they have a vision of, I want to be a better person, I want to eat better, I want to feel healthier, I want to feel stronger, I want to feel more energetic. And I think different people run into different challenges along the way. So I think the set of discussion topics that we had and the set of speakers that we had was fantastic. Even the activities that we did. It was an amazing time just to kind of live the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, but also the topics. We had David Weiss, I believe his last name is pronounced, and he was amazing, speaking on nutritional health, nutritional addiction, and that talk was like so great, and I still look back to my notes on that. So yeah, it was a fantastic event. We're resonating with the gratitude, and I've had several discussions with one of my students who attended with me. But not only that, we're sharing with our students back here in Vancouver. So the lessons definitely are spreading, and I just can't wait till the next one. In discussing with Victor from the Gracie Academy, the head manager there at the Gracie Academy, he said, all the talks required us to be open, and so many people shared their personal stories, and he said being open with others is like proving that you're comfortable being in the bottom of the side mount in life. And I thought, wow, that's such a great statement, and he deserves credit for it. But I thought it was a fantastic thing to talk about being vulnerable and sharing our challenges and sharing anything that we've learned along the way. So great credit to all the people who did attend and anyone who we could share this experience with. And I hope to see you all out there for the next one. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you next time.
Hey, Marty, it's Kris Ratte and
Tessa.
And we run the Certified Training Center under the Gracie Academy in Timmins, Ontario. So I guess number one, what was it like for us? For me, I love the whole experience. The atmosphere was great. For me, it wasn't about going there to do jiu-jitsu. It was more about being around like-minded individuals, enjoying the atmosphere and the vibe. I'm in jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life as I've chosen to run a business doing this, and being around people like this is definitely going to help achieve those goals.
For me, I actually was very hesitant in going because I've struggled since I started training almost 2 years ago with stepping on the mat. So I don't think I felt worthy of being around that group of people. But for me, that environment that I was in for those days revived something in me.
Okay, great. So what I liked most about the whole summit were the guest speakers and the camaraderie and just bouncing ideas off of people. It was really helpful, and like Tessa just mentioned, it revived us a little bit.
For me, like Kris mentioned, yes, the guest speakers were very impactful, and we can take a lot away from that. But for me, it was about connecting with several people while we were there, and just hearing their story and some of their ups and downs in their journey, and feeling like, oh, it's not just me, and that we all have this process to go through. And for me, that was probably the most beneficial thing for me.
And I guess the outcome, time will tell what the outcome is. However, what I think can come out of it is time management. With better time management, we'll better be able to manage our relationships with each other, our family, our students, and acquaintances, and so on and so forth. We'll have better health, and ultimately the business will prosper, and it's going to help us be on the mat for another 40 years.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback what Kris just said, for me, it's making my time on the mat easier. So my stepping onto the mat is not as difficult as it has been. And just realizing that this applies to my whole life and not just my hour of training or a day or whatever it may be. It's about applying it to every part of my life, and then that makes everything easier. So, yeah.
So thanks a lot, Marty. Glad to be on your podcast again. I love listening to it. It's been forever. And we look forward to the next Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit, and hopefully you'll be there.
Thanks so much.
So you were talking about being a connector, and connection is hugely important. All of us need more connection. It sounds like that was a real central theme or experience at the event. And, you can experience a certain level of connection at your school or at a seminar or even more at a camp. But an event like this, the atmosphere that you facilitate with the, okay to be vulnerable and with this connection really lends itself to connecting on a much deeper and personal level. So talk a little more about that, if you would.
Yes, when you're at your Jiu-Jitsu Academy or at a seminar or a camp, it takes a little bit of time for you to figure out who in the room is going to be very protective of you when you're rolling. They're going to still be challenging because we're all okay with challenge, right? And, battles here and there on the mat. This is important. But at the same time, you really want to know, especially people who have families and are professionals or maybe had an injury, you don't really want to go against somebody who just wants to rip your head off every single day. You want balance. You want to go hard one day. You might have a day where you want to go lighter. So in a room like this, it's not difficult. Anybody you pair up with, the people are there because when they start rolling with you, they immediately figure out who you are and where you are in terms of intensity, and then they match it. That's a very important thing. Both people are there to work with each other and not against each other. So there's like a 99% chance that you're guaranteed to have an amazing sparring experience no matter who you are. Now, if you're a black belt or a purple belt with 4 stripes and you're 22 years old, you're going to have a great role any day of the week for a while. But like I mentioned, again, we're all at different stages of our lives. And, you come across somebody that like you roll with, and it's just like, wow, I want to roll with that person for 1 hour. That tells you something about that person and about you and how the chemistry worked. So this event was just a bunch of amazing partnerships. And you don't have to look for 3 weeks, 2 months at your school to find that person that you enjoy more than anything, more than anybody rolling with. And don't get me wrong, the goal is for us to, everybody in our building, I can roll with anybody at my academy, and they know my limitations, they know my strengths, they know where my injury is. And if I tell them, hey, you know what, I've been in the traffic for the last 2.5 hours in the 405, and, I'm starving, they can also, consider that in how they treat me in the role, especially if they're more advanced than I am. They can see that I've had a long, frustrated day. So just simple things like that, allow for these connections to happen faster because the role is so beautiful from the get-go. And I knew this coming in. That was one of the things that was very important to me, that, no matter who you roll with, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be safe, it's going to be enjoyable, and you're going to make friends. And I had people come to me and say, that person over there, they just gave me an amazing role. And then I had people send me text messages during lunch break, and I really, really enjoyed with these 2 guys. There's one guy from here, one guy from there. And the women that were in the group saying, wow, I love how the more advanced women were very challenging for the others, but still very protective and very helpful, or how the men rolled with the women. So I got so much good feedback on how the rolling was so perfect everywhere. And, I mentioned to you that, after we did technique portions, I want to get into how the technique portion went, right, in the afternoon, evening time, and the rolling. But it's no-gi rolling and it's gi rolling. And there was a moment in all this sparring. I did a lot of sparring myself. But there was one time towards the end of the week where everybody was sparring, and I didn't have a partner. I was doing something, and I came back to the mat, and I watched this. But I didn't even want to spar because just watching it was so enjoyable that I said, well, I'm just going to sit here. And I probably sat there for 45 minutes watching people spar, and I was just enjoying sparring through them. And I had sparred, all the other 4, 5, 6 sparring sessions. I was out there rolling and doing it. But this time I sat there, and it was just as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, to watch.
Nice.
Great.
So it's one thing to be right in the middle and doing it, but sometimes just to sit back and take it in from a whole different perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can learn so much from watching, right? Somebody told me that one time. So the technique, just to finish up, and we'll discuss whatever, but the end of the day ended with that technique where those guys came and spoke during that time, but also did this big cool thing where we did a technique share where, anybody, we would say, okay, we're doing top position or we're doing submissions. So anybody would walk up and just show something. It could be a blue belt, purple, brown, black belt, anybody. And we had people showing techniques. One person would show, the class would watch, the class would go practice it, maybe ask a question, go practice it, and then come back 4 minutes later and somebody would add a detail to that move or ask a question or change direction. It didn't matter. It was very much like a free-for-all, give and take and question. And if you had a problem in your jiu-jitsu, this didn't happen that much, but the idea of like, hey, right here I'm having a little challenge with this. That happened more, on a one person-to-person, like as they rolled. But you can ask people for help. You can show something that's been working for you. You can add on to somebody's move that they just did and kind of give them a little, make it a little bit stronger or give them a different variation. So I think people really enjoyed this share in the evening time. And then immediately after the technique portion, we did gi rolling. And fortunately, we had somebody that ran our laundry for us. So it's like $1 a day to wash a gi. We washed everybody's gis at the end of the evening.
That's great.
But the gi rolling, for an hour of gi rolling, and the thing is this, to spar in the morning and in the evening, 3 days in a row, you have to know how to pace yourself and protect yourself. So they did roll a little bit harder, I would say, in their gis because, number one, they didn't do all that stretching early morning, but also whenever you have a gi on, things tend to slow down a little bit, right? So it's a little bit safer to go harder, less slippery. So gi rolling for an hour, and then finished. After the rolling was done, we broke off once again into small circles of 8 people, and we discussed jiu-jitsu and exactly what it is that we have to do to have a very sustainable jiu-jitsu practice, right? How is it that we're going to make sure that we can practice jiu-jitsu 20, 30, 40 years from now? Because all of us know very well that most people don't practice jiu-jitsu for over 3 years, 4 years. Everybody stops, maybe even a year and a half, who knows? So quitting jiu-jitsu is a very easy thing to do because it gets challenging. There are injuries. You do have your work, your family, everything has to be balanced in with your jiu-jitsu practice. So it was our, mission to figure out how to best balance our lives and jiu-jitsu and how to pretty much apply jiu-jitsu to our jiu-jitsu practice, right? How can we be more efficient with our everyday, all the time in our day? Because if you're wasting time doing, X, Y, and Z, then you're not seeing your family, which means when you go to jiu-jitsu, now even your family is kind of suffering. They're not around you. But where is it that you can, where can you take from to allow you to do jiu-jitsu, to allow you to be with your family, to allow you to work hard and make money and, have food in your belly and a roof over your head and time for yourself? These are very important things that we have to always consider. And oftentimes, our time management is not the best, and therefore, somebody suffers, whether it be your health, maybe you're rushing, eating fast food versus taking time to really eat the best foods and protect yourself and stay healthy. So lots of discussion on what kind of things we have to do to stay on the mat forever, which is the main purpose of this whole event. Mm-hmm. And some people are doing jiu-jitsu today at schools, and they're already feeling discouraged. They're already frustrated. They already, are feeling this pressure and these expectations from themselves and their peers and their instructor, and it's already becoming more work than it should be. So I feel like we're here to help them and speak to them. Or somebody has already quit jiu-jitsu, and when they look at what we're doing here at this Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit, they can say, you know what, I quit, but I quit because I didn't have a plan. I quit because I approached jiu-jitsu in a completely different manner than these guys are approaching it, this group right here, and the practice and how you learn and what's your mindset and what kind of expectations do you have for yourself and what is the philosophy around your practice and how you live jiu-jitsu. So that's the whole purpose of this, is that people out there, or they're training jiu-jitsu and they accept that quitting is very likely, and they want to have a plan as to, what kind of things they can do to keep themselves on the mat. Because you want to do jiu-jitsu for yourself. You want to do it because how it makes you a better father, it makes you a better mother, it makes you a better husband or wife, better employee. So if you really value jiu-jitsu and you agree that most people quit in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and you want it for a lifetime, what kind of things do you have to consider and be ready for? Let's prepare, right? Half of, solving a problem is knowing the problem.
Right.
So let's prepare ourselves for this long run, and let's really think, put it out there. I myself, Ryron Gracie, I want to practice jiu-jitsu with my grandchildren because I remember my grandfather sharing it with me. So I want to be 80 years old and my grandchildren come stay at my house, wherever I live, for a month. That's very important to me. And how can I make that happen? Well, number one, I have to make sure that I'm healthy. I can live that long and be around when I'm 80 years old. And I can move and do jiu-jitsu with them. Number two, I have to make sure that my relationships with my children and my grandchildren are intact. Because if my children and I have huge problems and we can't communicate, they're not going to send their grandchildren to me. And I have to make sure that I own a home. I have a place, a house that has mats, like my grandfather had when he was in Brazil. So I need to make sure that I have money and a way to live a life where I can spend a whole month with my grandchildren, hanging out, training jiu-jitsu and eating and discussing life and so on. I'm going to be married. So my relationship in terms of my marriage is important. I want my grandchildren to see that, me with my wife, Victoria, and them to say, wow, look at grandma and grandpa. They're really making it happen, and they're doing they're doing the best that they can, and they're together still, and this is amazing, and the divorce rate is 80% and 70%, or who knows what it will be then, but they're still together, and I want to do what they did. So teaching them how to have relationships. So that's my goal for myself, is my grandchildren spending 1 month with me when I'm 80 years old doing jiu-jitsu together and living together. And just, if that's my goal, I need to have I need to be able to drive. I need to remember, my memory has to be good. My mind has to be right. There's so much. So I'm living for the moment, but I'm thinking long term. That's my goal when I'm 80 years old.
Yeah. Plan for the future, but live in today, right?
Yes.
Yes. And what it sounds like what I'm getting from what you're saying is building a better person, a better life through jiu-jitsu.
Yes. Now, many people around the world will build a better life through many things. You might build a better life through your hiking. You might be a serious hiker, and hiking might do things for you like nothing else has, and it really freed you. Or it could be your religion, or it could be yoga, or it could be nutrition. Maybe you're just all about food, and focusing on food before everything has completely reshaped your life. And for many people that I know, most people that I know, jiu-jitsu is that common denominator. And obviously jiu-jitsu has something that nothing else has. I mean, all martial arts have it to some degree, but jiu-jitsu has it the most, is the effectiveness in a real life situation in terms of self-defense. So the confidence that comes from jiu-jitsu, that is going to roll over into everything else that we do. So I'm very fortunate that I found this land and this jiu-jitsu family. And now it's all about the people around the world that I guess trust jiu-jitsu, but also trust me and trust the Gracie family and the Jiu-Jitsu Lifestyle Summit to some degree, right? Because I am the Gracie family. I am myself. I am jiu-jitsu. And if you hear this message and this, resonates with you, let's apply jiu-jitsu to life. And I don't even know all the answers. I'm learning. Me in these groups of 8 people or in these talks that we have, I'm like a student. I'm a student for life. I sit there and I listen and I'm like, wow, these are things I never even considered before. Because there's so much to learn. We can learn from anybody. Mm-hmm. And if we all come together, and everybody shares, everybody listens, everybody receives, everybody gives, everybody takes. If we do this, then like you say, we're making better people.
Yes.
And that's, in the end, what's more important. So to me especially, self-defense is important, knowing how to defend myself. But more important than defending myself is practicing jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life. And I say that because jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life means, especially if I live jiu-jitsu, not just train techniques once a week or twice a week, but if I live jiu-jitsu, then what that means is being a better person.
Absolutely.
Right? There's so many characteristics that jiu-jitsu brings out of you, right? It humbles you. Think about how much more respectful I am than if I never did jiu-jitsu. I obviously have no idea, but the respect and the discipline and the caring for people, right? And the awareness and the empathy. There's so much that jiu-jitsu gives us and teaches us along the way. So the goal is to really tap into that in these discussions and throughout our lives, but in a very, how do I say, in a very intense way during the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit.
Awesome. So let's take one more pause to hear from some others that were there.
Hello, my name is Evandro Nunes. I'm a black belt from São Paulo, Brazil, and I train and teach Jiu-Jitsu at the Gracie Academy in Torrance. I was at the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit that happened 2 weeks ago here in California. And I was expecting to go there and share some Jiu-Jitsu and learn more about all the topics that we were discussing. But it was much more than that. It was a place where people shared not only Jiu-Jitsu, but we learned about health, business, relationships. We connected in a different level with everyone that was there, sharing similar mindsets, right? Because every time you put people that share similar views on life, good things happen. And we were discussing what is more important, right? To be the best black belt in the planet or to be a balanced human being. Someone who's not only a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, but a black belt in the way that it deals with your family, with your friends, with your co-workers, a black belt regarding your health, a black belt regarding everything that you can imagine, your finances, relationships. Being a black belt in life is what we all want. And from the many speakers that were there, one of them said something very interesting. Just like people invest money on funds, we every day invest our most valuable asset, which is time, in things that we do in our daily basis. So how much time, how much of your most valuable asset you invest in your relationship or in your finances or in your hobbies, right? So that understanding that my time is my most valuable asset is one of the things that I got from the summit, for sure. Besides the connection and the friends that I made, just like people with similar interests, as I said before, it's very interesting to have Jiu-Jitsu as a connective tissue to connect people so we can be not only better practitioners, not only better martial artists, but also better people, right? This is my goal, and this is the goal that from everyone that was in the summit, and this is why I love it, and I'm looking forward for the one next year and the one after that. Thank you, guys. I hope that Jiu-Jitsu can be the missing link between you and me, and I look forward to meet all of you.
Okay. Let me just comment real quick on what you just said about, learning from everyone. One of the things I sense that was out there, and I've heard you speak about before, is, learning from everyone and seeing people as people, not their rank. You may have someone with a lot more rank than someone else, but the rank isn't who they are. And obviously it means they may have more skill in certain areas, but to be open to learning from anyone, either about life or even certain things about jiu-jitsu, can really open things up instead of getting caught up in this thing where we see ourselves in this hierarchy of the beatdown, I call it. Who can beat you up the most is up here, and then who's the newest and less skilled is down here. And we get caught up in seeing ourselves in this hierarchy, usually based on rank. But I love how you talk about it's really more about kind of just who you are.
Yeah, and rank, remember, everybody was a white belt. Everybody was no belt one day. So rank comes in many forms. Rank can be the person's belt. Rank can be, right, the person's, I guess, where they are in terms of business. Mm-hmm. Somebody might be working at McDonald's, and you have a guy who owns his own business, who knows how much money the guy's worth. So that's a different kind of rank, is where you stand in, I guess, in the business world. And I've heard people, say this, and it doesn't matter where you are, but you could be worth $100 million, and then somebody at a cash register or a homeless person or someone can say something to you, and you can say, "Wow, that was so interesting. It can really get you thinking." So people can speak to you no matter what rank they are, and I guess the question is, are you even available to be spoken to? That's very important, right? Like, I want to be very available to hear from anybody. It could be somebody that has no money, that does not own a home. It could be somebody who is very unhealthy could be somebody who's sick and dying. I want to, maybe to some degree, maybe they know more than me because they're super sick right now, and they could give me something to think about in terms of health. Or maybe somebody who has no money, maybe they had all kinds of money and then they went bankrupt and now they're homeless. Who knows? And they had 10 cars repossessed. So who knows how they got there or why they're there. But like I just love this whole idea of being a student for life. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm also a teacher. I teach for life, and I share everything that I've learned. If you learn it, I share it. And my intention is always good to, help people. And if you say, that's not for me right now, I'll say, great, we'll move on. But the point is that being open to learn at any moment, I think is a very powerful thing, and it will serve you well, and it can, very much help us grow. And not only that, but now I have children. So in terms of my relationships, I want my kids and my wife or people that are very close to me to feel like at any moment they can say, hey, why don't you consider this? And I'll say, wow, you're my 3-year-old daughter. But what you just said right there, I'd never considered. Thank you for bringing it up.
Right.
And if I shut her down to that I'm not a student for life and that, I'm a higher rank than she is, then she's not going to share with me, which will kind of, I guess, stifle her. I don't want that. I want her, if she feels something that might help me and that is valuable to somebody else, I want her to share it and give it. Just yesterday, I was at a restaurant, and I told the lady that was next to me washing her hands. They had like those co-ed, like hand washing areas. Uh-huh. And she put her hand in the little air blow dryer, the Dyson blade that dries your hands. And I told her that someone had told me that when you put your hand in there, if somebody washes their hand poorly, which it for sure happens, then there's who knows what's in that wind tunnel. So now your hands are dirtier than when you just wash them because there's all kinds of bacteria in the hand drying thing.
Interesting.
The lady went back and washed her hands again. She'll probably never wash her hands in the Dyson blade ever again.
That's awesome.
I don't ever wash my hands in there again because my friend told me that I respect. But that person that told me that, they were a white belt. And they don't even own their own home yet. But it doesn't matter. When they said that, I'm like, wow, that makes sense. Some little kid wiped his incorrectly, and his hand wasn't fully clean, and it's in there now, flying around. This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much information. So take it from anybody who did it.
That's right.
If you're open. And do you have to take it and live it and own it forever? No. But just listen, take it, chew on it a little bit, and then keep what you like. There it is.
That's right. That's right. So, Ryron, how was this event like you expected? Was it different in any way that you expected? And what are you the most happy with? What had the biggest impact on you? So just kind of answer any and all that.
Yeah, the event was perfect. Like the Marriott in Fashion Circle, Del Amo Mall area, they did it perfect. They had their event coordinators who really helped make my life easy. And, I had 2 or 3 facilitators. So everything went very smoothly. I expected a little more work on our part and a little more stress throughout the event, but I was there like as a participant on vacation, just enjoying every moment, which was great. And as for what I expected in terms of the event and what it would yield, I think that I expected the connections, people rolling, have great roles, great conversations. I expected friendships to be made just the way that it was. So I guess I expected a lot, and I got a lot. I got a lot of connections, a lot of people just hanging out together and having a blast. And I can't really say I would change anything. Remember, I had a small gathering of 22 people before this. Mm-hmm. A smaller one. This is kind of the second one, but it's the official first one, I guess.
Right.
The first one was very small. It was at my house. It was crazy. People sitting in the garage. But I can't change anything. The hotel was just too nice. Everything was just too convenient. You would train, go upstairs, shower, come back down, eat. Everything was so close, walking distance. The only thing I want is more time in the day, more hours.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have, 8 or 10 hours of sleep 10 hours of sleep plus some free time at night. But in the middle of the day, we need more hours to be able to have more discussions, more training, because people had a hard time leaving sometimes. They would be training, and then half the people would leave, half would stay going over techniques. And they're cutting into their breakfast time. Or we're having a discussion, 15, 20 people would stay and keep talking.
Right.
And sometimes I would literally talk all the way up to the minute, and I'd walk over to eat, which is not the best, because I wanted to shower and change my clothes, and now I'm eating in my no-gi attire for breakfast. Right. But, it is what it is. So things like that are, like everybody, many people who are very successful and who love life and are doing a lot of big things, they want more time in the day. They want more hours in the day. So this is one of those events where I've always felt that here or there. But for this event, I'm like, wow, let me get 3 more hours just crunched in the middle. That would be great.
Yeah, and you shared with me that you felt like you got every bit as much from it as other people. It wasn't this your event for everybody else. It really was for you as well.
100%.
And share with us about Victoria teaching everybody the game Mafia.
Yeah, well, I don't want it to be my event, even though I very much thought of it and I'm organizing it, right? I want it to be, because I'm there as a participant and I'm hanging out and I'm enjoying every second, I'm like them. I feel like the people that are there. I'm as grateful as they are to be there. So therefore, it's our event. The event is for people that want to train jiu-jitsu for the rest of their lives and people that want to live jiu-jitsu. So fortunately, Victoria and a few other people, our friend Eddie from Torrance, and Melissa from Utah, all helped kind of with small little things, just time management and reminding me of things and helping get things done. And by them being there, it allowed me to 100% enjoy this event. As for Victoria, a lot of things happened once everything was done in the evening. And Victoria played this game called Mafia. It's a role-playing game. And she probably had groups of 15, 20, 25 people sometimes playing Mafia into the night, 10:30 p.m., 11:30 p.m., midnight, 1 in the morning, people are playing Mafia. Of course, I would never stay out that late. But some of the younger guys that, can sleep for 4 hours and get up and do the whole day, they did that. And it blew my mind. Like, I would play one game and be gone, but they love Mafia. And a game like Mafia, if you know about this game, it's a role-playing game, and you spend an hour playing one round. And a whole hour, lots of talking, laughing, and you get to really know people, and it's just a different type of connecting. So whether that happens, during Mafia or in the hotel pool or playing chess outside, or they have a little hockey game with the sand. I don't know what it's called. But there was things to do around the hotel that allowed for a different kind of bonding other than jiu-jitsu, which was great to have. I was very fortunate that the hotel was that well set up. So yeah, Victoria was the Mafia leader, and they're joking about having a Mafia summit where all they do is Mafia is all about
That's
lying.
funny. You said people got addicted to it.
Can you lie? Oh yeah, they're very addicted. They want to have a Mafia, maybe a whole day before where you come in and just train Mafia. And we could have some speakers come in and teach us how to be very deceiving and how to lie, and poker faces.
That's funny.
I'm a good liar, but when I get tired, I just start mumbling, and I'm like, yep, I'm done. And I walk away. So there it is. So Mafia was one of the main hits of the event.
Yeah, I know you said a lot of people felt they got to know people even more doing that than any of the other activities. So here's the big question for a lot of us. Would you consider, or how do you feel about doing a summit on the East Coast? Maybe Virginia Beach, Outer Banks, or Destin, Florida, somewhere like that.
Yeah, I love this idea. I want to do the summit anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is, because the people are what matters. So the East Coast sounds great. And I want everybody that wants to come to the summit to be able to come to the summit. It only had 55 people because I didn't want to be overwhelmed with 155. But as we grow little by little, we add 40, 50 people a year. Who knows? We double the numbers maybe. I think a solid group of 200, 250 people would be amazing in another 2 years. But yes, I want to do it on the East Coast. I want to do it here. I don't know if the East Coast should be the next one. I like summertime. You do. So it's all possible.
Yeah.
There's no rules. And people came from all over to California. I mean, the truth is, people who live on the East Coast, don't they want to come vacation in LA?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
See?
But
people want to get away.
Yeah, I mean, LA is awesome. I love going out there. But I think the North Carolina mountains, like around Asheville, that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I myself want to go to the East Coast to vacation there in the summertime. But if I go right now, I have to wait till next summer. It's almost a year away.
Sure.
Right now, what are we in, March?
Yep.
Yeah, it's over a year.
Yeah, I know.
A long time. So who knows?
You said, but it's not about the place. It's about the people, and the kind of people that you tend to look for and attract to these are people with pure intent, the people that are perfect training partners who want this jiu-jitsu to be part of their life, all parts of their life forever, and to keep training until, they're well into their years, and also to bond with people on the mat and off. But while they're on the mat, you were telling me before, when you can sense when someone's not having a good day or certain needs, and you can pick that up when they don't even tell, and be there for them and be more just as concerned for the other person and their growth and their well-being as your own, then you've really done something.
Yes, 100%. That's very important. And everybody, coming out pretty soon, I have a group, and it's like a production group, or their name is Thou Collective, and they helped us out by capturing this whole event. They were there every day for everything, capturing it all. So kind of stay tuned for that if you really want to kind of see and understand the level of bonding and the connecting that went on at the Lifestyle Summit. I'll put that video out soon, maybe in like 3 weeks or a month, where it's going to give you a good idea as to what you're getting yourself involved with if you decide to come to the summit and, like you said, and just experience and have those relationships that we all need so much.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing that. And this was your vision, and it's got to feel great, Ryron, to take it from a vision to have it materialize and have such a profound impact on so many people, as well as for yourself, a great self-growth opportunity. So well done, man, and thank you so much for taking time to share it with the people here.
Thank you so much. And as long as people are, about it and they want it and they're attending, we'll keep growing and do this forever.
Right on. All right. Thank you,
sir.
Thanks
for having me.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Have a good one.
Okay. Really enjoyed that recap with Ryron and the others. And it's not over yet. Up next is the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment.
Hey Marty, Don Cook from Gracie Jiu Jitsu Keego Harbor, Michigan. Thanks for having me. And thank you for letting me share a story about the summit, which was absolutely amazing, and really words can't explain or describe how amazing the experience was. And that's exactly what it was an experience. And I know we don't have much time, but I will tell you one story that I thought was truly amazing. I got to connect really well with Johnny Wags, a.k.a. Wags, black belt, and teaches with Kris Bailey in Scottsdale, Arizona. And we're sitting at the dinner. We're having dinner together. All the instructors and jiu-jitsu guys were having dinner, and we were just talking and chatting. And I just briefly mentioned how I got my mom to train jiu-jitsu. And Johnny said, man, how amazing that would be if he could get his mom on the mats. And I just thought to myself, wow, maybe I'm luckier than I thought, because I didn't really think twice about it. I was just happy that my mom was on the mats. But how many other jiu-jitsu practitioners out there that would love to have their mom or their parents or their family and friends get on the mats? And Wags' mom, she works at a very dangerous, school, and she's always in dangerous situations. And and I almost didn't, you know, give him this advice because I didn't feel qualified, you know, and if anything, the summit taught me to speak up and connect with more people, and, you know, so I almost didn't say anything, but I didn't want to rob him the opportunity, you know, because you never know how your words can affect someone, you know, good or bad, you know. So I didn't want to rob John the opportunity of hearing something good. So I told John this. I said, John, here's what I would do, because he's tried in the past and it's always failed. And it was so bad at one time where John's mom wouldn't even let him talk jiu-jitsu around her. And this was back when John was doing sport and all that, and, you know, and hey, she's actually right. You know, why would you want to hear it? But long story short, I guess he's been making some progress, and I said, this is what I would do. I would give her a hug, and I would say, man, I love you, Mom, and give her a hug, and then touch her shoulder and say, I love you again. And then slide your hands all the way down to the wrists and say, I love you again, Mom, but how would you escape from this position? And we all know what she's going to do. She's going to try to pull, headbutt, or go for the groin. Before she even has the opportunity, take 3 steps back and knock her off balance a little bit. Just a little bit. And then ask her again, how would you get out, Mom? And then do it again, and then do it again. And then, if anyone who's done Women Empowered or trained Jiu-Jitsu wrist releases, you know the escape. And this is how it begins. And it blew John's mind. And I thought to myself, geez, what if I never said that to John? Because this is what John said to me, which also blew my mind. He said all the years of his training would be worth it just to get to this point, just to hear this piece of advice. And he did mention that that was the best piece of advice he got throughout the whole summit. And again, that's mind-blowing. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to connect with John. And I don't think we would have connected on this level had I not trained with him in January instructor certification program in Torrance, California. I was actually one of his evaluators, and because of that we got to connect on a higher level, and because of that we got to connect even more at the summit, and because of that I was able to explain this to him. Crazy, right? So anyway, thank you guys for having me on the show. Talk to you soon.
My name is Victoria Gracie, and I'm doing an addition to the Jiu Jitsu Lifestyle Summit review. And you'll have to excuse if you hear kids' voices in the back. My children are here with me as we are traveling with Hidon, and he is at a seminar. So for anyone to understand my review of the summit first, you kind of have to understand my history with it. It first began with Hidon asking if we could invite 20 to 30 of his friends who roll with him to come stay at our house, you know, for a week, and that me and my kids should just leave. Yeah. To be fair, I have to say that at first I was really hesitant to jump on board, but he did massage the issue. He sold it a little bit, and once he started to explain his full vision and his dream, I thought, all right, let's give this a chance, and I guess we can have it in our house. Let's do it. But I didn't leave. I refused to leave my house. So yeah, something about leaving my home to a bunch of guys or girls doing jiu-jitsu full day and night just felt like a collegiate party waiting to happen. And, you know, I am a mom after all. It actually turned out to be a really beautiful, intimate, uplifting weekend of wonderful human beings. I was happy they were all in my home, and I even enjoyed cooking for them. I hosted them, and as you may have heard, I also introduced many of them to the wonderful game of Mafia. With the success of the first one, or at least that my home wasn't really left upside down, I fully supported Hidon's vision and the idea of throwing a second one. Only this time I did realize that the attendees were doubling, so we had to find a different place to make this possible, because thankfully our home wasn't a comfortable option to host everyone. So my favorite moments were the intimate touches that Hidon thought out so incredibly well. You see, for him, jiu-jitsu really is a lifestyle, a mentality, a mindset, a business mindset, a healthy approach to eating, living, thinking, being, and also a recipe for traversing life and relationships everywhere. I believe that this entire event reflected that, and he had guest speakers on each of these aspects of life that he believed we could all improve in some way, as well as important aspects of building our happiness. He went through great lengths to find stories to leave in their rooms daily for them to reflect upon. My favorite quote from one of the attendees, John Wagner, is that in all of the jiu-jitsu events he attended in his 16 years of training, as he's a black belt, is that this was by far the most comprehensive event addressing issues for him that he never found elsewhere. To me, this was the comment that showed me that Ryron was on the right path for what he wanted to do in the full vision. You know, Ryron's been doing this long enough to understand that technique is not enough for a practitioner to be fulfilled, and that these guests are understanding that any lacking of their life will keep them from jiu-jitsu, and that we all have aspects of our life that need nurturing. And Ryron was really hoping to do that. As far as my involvement, I was his event coordinator, wife, manager, and any aspect that he didn't take care of himself, which he did a lot. But more importantly, I was the lead in the late night game of Mafia. This was a role-playing game that I used to play on tour when I toured with Rihanna and Cheyenne, and we were up until the latest hours of the nights before shows or on our days off. And this group took it on and made it exactly what I wanted it to be. It was a game that allowed us to get to know each other, that allowed us to bond and play until the wee hours of the night that we probably shouldn't have been up. The reason why it takes so long and why we stayed up so late is that this game is played in rounds. And so you'd have to wait almost an hour to get back into the game if you were killed off in the beginning. and then you'd have to wait till everybody was died and we started a whole new game. So I'm normally the narrator, which is a difficult position, as you have to know everyone's role and somehow have to be neutral when things start to get really crazy. But this group was hysterical. There are some really good liars, but also some terrible ones as well. And it's not as much about acting as in blatant lying and deceit. You just gotta tell someone you're not Mafia when you really are. That's what makes it really interesting, and some people cannot fake that, and it's amazing. And I feel like a lot of people bonded over this and really got to know each other, and I found it to be an integral part of the camp. So much so that some people are joking about making a Mafia summit of its own. And I think Ryron just wants this to happen so that people will go to bed at a reasonable bedtime. He's so responsible. My ultimate favorite moment of the event was on the last day during the lunch break. I stood up to thank my husband for the beautiful vision and extensive work that he had done for this event, and then in turn opened it up to the group in case anyone wanted to add to it and turned it, to them. And it honestly turned into a mass, vulnerable moment of gratitude and sharing that brought almost the entire room to tears. People were sharing their life struggles, their closeness to giving up, their inability to want to change, and how this event was an overwhelming feeling of possibilities and future and positivity. I believe it was an inspiration for change packed with resources to actually make that possible. So many of us sometimes want to actually do something good for ourselves, but you just don't know where to begin. I have to tell you that I rarely, if ever, probably never, see my husband cry. Not even on my wedding day. He welled up with tears, but they never actually dropped. But on this day, that last day of the summit, he cried. And the whole room followed. He gave us the ability and permission to be vulnerable, which was a heavy, heavy theme for the event and for the week. And he gave us permission and the ability to feel fully. And we were all moved to tears of joy and appreciation. It was amazing. All in all, Ryron really has a dream, a vision. The summit is his baby. And I couldn't be prouder of how much work and love and thought he's put into such an event. And how it's impacted all those who attended. I look forward to seeing how this progresses, and I'm really proud of him.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. I appreciate all feedback, so if you have feedback, please don't hesitate to give it. If you have ideas for the show or for guests, please let me know about those. You can leave feedback on the website at www.graciejujitsurocks.com. You can also leave feedback on iTunes, and while you're there, make sure to rate the show. It helps us with our standing in iTunes. If you haven't liked us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, please go ahead and do that. And don't forget to share the episodes on your Facebook and social media. Again, thanks again for listening, and until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.